Coming up on Network Africa, over 120 people killed in a failed Democratic Republic of Congo jailbreak. South Africa and China vow stronger ties as President Cyril Ramaphosa begins his state visit. Plus, the UN report warns that continued lack of accountability in Libya risks fueling more instability in the country. Hello and welcome to the program today. Thank you so much for joining us at this time. I'm Rayo Olarinde. Let's begin in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where at least 129 people have died after an attempted jailbreak in the country's main prison. Authorities say most of them died in a stampede at the Makala Central Prison in the capital, Kinshasa. A provisional assessment showed that 24 inmates were shot dead by warning gunshots as they tried to escape from the overcrowded facility on Monday. The Congolese Interior Ministry says there are also 59 injured people taken into care by the government, as well as some cases of women being raped. Order has since been restored at the prison, part of which was burnt in the attack. Makala's Congo largest penitentiary, with a capacity for 1,500 people, holds over 12,000 inmates, most of whom are awaiting trial. And that's according to Amnesty International in their latest country report. The facility has recorded previous jailbreaks, including in 2017, when an attack by a religious sect freed dozens of prisoners. Nigeria and China are set to strengthen their bilateral relations with the signing of about 5 memoranda of understanding on Tuesday. This comes after President Bola Tinubu formally commenced his official visit to the country after arriving on Sunday. The agreements between the two nations focus on key areas including green economy, agriculture, satellite technology development, media enterprise development and promotion, blue economy development, and national planning cooperation. President Bola Tinubu with Chinese President Xi Jinping their meeting is expected to provide a platform for the two heads of state discussing matters of mutual interest spanning economic cooperation, national, regional, and international security, and other pressing global issues. Well, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has met with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping in Beijing on the occasion of President Ramaphosa's state visit to the People's Republic of China. During the state visit, the two countries recommitted to working together towards building a high-quality China-South Africa community with a shared future. In a joint statement by both leaders, China committed to assisting South Africa in tackling poverty as part of ongoing efforts to improve the lives of South Africans. According to President Xi, he had paid more visits to South Africa than any other African country. And President Ramaphosa is the first African head of state he has received for a state visit to China just before the FOCAC summit, which demonstrates, according to the president, the high-level bilateral ties and friendship between the two countries. President Ramaphosa, on his part, pledged his country's adherence to the One China policy and its firm support to China in promoting mutually beneficial cooperation.
Despite changes in the international landscape, there's been no change to the mission of China and South Africa to pursue modernization, no change to their commitment to promoting China-Africa cooperation, and no change to their aspiration to improve global governance. In a new era and on a new journey, greater unity and cooperation between China and South Africa meet the expectations of the two peoples.
Your Excellency, President Xi Jinping, I reaffirmed that our political rapport and relationship is the foundation of an unwavering and valuable friendship. We remain committed to the One China policy. Our two countries share many common objectives. Building on the firm foundation of solidarity, we continue to provide support in promoting our interests
Joining us now for more discussions is Yana De Clevaro, is a China-Africa analyst on trade and economics at the Institute of Security Studies in Pretoria. Hello, Yana. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, China and South Africa are big powerhouses in their strides. How can South Africa and indeed the whole continent really benefit from this forum that's about to start on Wednesday? That's the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation.
I think the best way for South Africa and the continent more generally to benefit is in order to be very clear on what their needs are and what their specific national, regional, as well as continental developmental goals ultimately will be. In terms of the broader continent, moving up the value chain is very central to some of the benefits and opportunities that FOCAC can offer. Furthermore, I also think increasing trade relations in a more equitable and sustainable fashion could be something that in general moves the continent forward and would also be something that more developed economies within the continent, such as South Africa, is keeping an eye out for.
Well, statistics show that China's loans to African nations, especially last year, were the highest in 5 years. Now, some analysts accuse China of taking advantage of Africa, especially in providing those loans that in turn put many countries in debt. Do you agree?
I think it's very important to understand African agency in all of this. At the end of the day, the responsibility lies with African governments to decide in which deals they choose to engage. However, that being said, there is definitely some changes that can be made towards the China model of engagement with Africa regarding loans, in terms of having smaller projects that is more profitable and has a quicker turnaround time, as well as projects that is very well conceptualized in terms of how it will ultimately contribute towards the continent's developmental goals, or some things and some changes that we have seen in recent years in terms of China's engagement with Africa, but definitely something that still has some room for improvement going forward. So in terms of the broader narrative of debt trap diplomacy, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. But I would say that there is certain elements in which the Chinese-Africa debt relationship can be made more sustainable.
And Yana, how can, African countries free themselves of needs from other countries that seem bigger than they are?
I think one of the first steps that can be taken is collective action from Africa's side in terms of using platforms such as the African Union, as well on a regional level, regional economic communities, and making sure that this type of negotiation is preferred over bilateral negotiation. This ultimately helps increases Africa's power. Furthermore, I think the continent needs a set agenda and framework for how it engages with external actors. This would empower African countries to make sure that these engagements are ultimately in the continent's best interest and all aligned with Agenda 2063, as opposed to merely reacting to what is brought to the table by external actors such as the US, the EU, or China. So I think that type of conceptualization coming from Africa's side and having the frameworks in place and what is the best way to engage is one of the best ways that we can move forward and make sure that African agency is at the center of all of these engagements.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Yana De Clevaro, a China-Africa analyst at the Institute of Security Studies, Pretoria. Thank you for your thoughts on the program. Moving on now, a United Nations report is warning that the continued lack of accountability and years of impunity in Libya risks fueling more instability in the country. The UN Human Rights Agency jointly issued this report with the UN support mission in Libya, presenting it at the bi-weekly briefing in Geneva. Spokesperson for the UN Human Rights Agency, Saif Magango, says those behind the human rights violations and abuses in the city of Tahuna between the year 2013 and 2022 are encouraging further division in the country.
A new report we are issuing jointly with the UN support mission in Libya, UNSMIL, warns that the continued lack of accountability and years of impunity enjoyed by those behind the human rights violations and abuses committed in the Libyan city of Tarhuna risks fueling instability and division in the country. The report details how the Al-Qadiyat, an armed element which emerged in 2011 and exercised brutal control over Tarhuna, a city of 150,000 people, 90 kilometers southeast of Tripoli, carried out gross human rights violations and abuses, including killings, disappearances, sexual violence, abductions, torture, and ill treatment and forced displacement between the years 2013 and 2022. It decries the failure to deliver justice, which has in some instances led to renewed violence and repeated violations, fomenting further grievances in Tarhuna and surrounding areas. Al-Kaniyat's integration into the former government of National Accord and later the Libyan National Army, says the report, has been a significant barrier to accountability and justice. Commenting on the report, High Commissioner Volker Turk said, "Years have passed since these terrible violations were committed, but the perpetrators have still not been brought to justice, nor have truth, justice, and reparations been delivered to victims and their families. The impunity must end. There must be accountability in accordance with international due process and fair trial standards." End of quote.
African nations are losing up to 5% of their GDP every year as they bear a heavier burden than the rest of the world from climate change. This is according to a new report by the World Meteorological Organization. This is coming after one of the continent's hottest years on record. Many African nations are set to be spending up to 9% of their budgets for climate adaptation policies. WMO Secretary General Celeste Saulo says over the past 60 years, Africa has observed a warming trend that has become more rapid than the global average, and it's affecting everything from food security to public health to peace. The continent is responsible for less than 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions, but it is the most vulnerable region to extreme weather events, including droughts, floods, and heat waves. The new report focuses on the year 2023, one of Africa's 3 hottest years on record. Now, the WMO is urging African governments to invest in early warning systems as well as meteorological services so that millions of Africans will be saved from droughts, floods, and extreme heat by 2030. A Ugandan athlete is said to be in critical condition in a Kenyan hospital after allegedly being doused with petrol and set on fire by a former boyfriend. Police say 33-year-old Rebecca Cheptegei had suffered burns to more than 75% of her body. She was attacked at her home in western Kenya, where she had been training. The alleged attacker also sustained serious burns, according to police, and the two are being treated at the Moi Referral Hospital in Eldoret, that's in the main town in that region. She is a marathon runner who competed at the recent Paris Olympics, finishing 44th. Back in 2022, she won gold at the World Mountain and Trail Running Championships in Chiang Mai, Thailand. Well, in Kenya, there are concerns about increasing cases of violence against female athletes, some of which have resulted in death. Let's take a break now on the program. Still ahead. Nigeria's indigenous refinery, Dangote Refinery, rolls out its production of premium motor spirits as the National Petroleum Company Limited raises the pump price to between 855 naira to 897 per litre. Welcome back to the program. Nigeria's indigenous refinery, Dangote Refinery, has rolled out its first production of premium motor spirit, PMS, from its 650,000 BPD facility. The $20 billion refinery, built by billionaire Aliko Dangote, began operations in January, initially producing naphtha and jet fuel. Briefing journalists this morning, the president of Dangote Group says Nigeria will have to will soon have I beg your pardon. Briefing journalists, he says Nigeria will have engine-friendly gasoline for the first time. He spoke extensively with our energy correspondent Olu Phillips on the significance of this event.
There's no limit to how far, going to, as a human being, obviously we have ambitions, and I think our own is to make sure that we make our country and Africa proud. So the journey just started, and we'll continue. We'll start. The journey has just started today. You are right. Really, even 5-6 years ago, I don't really have gray hair, but right now, it's history. But we thank God, at least we've been able to deliver. So I can say that, it's a golden gray hair, which I believe it is worth it. And I'm a very, very happy person today. I must thank really, our great team, led by Mr. Edwin, for making this dream, possible. I must thank, also Mr. Alake for giving that support to make sure that this...
And let me just interject and ask how much of support you're getting from the present government, and if President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has thrown his weight behind what you're doing here today.
Most of my appreciation will go to, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his government for giving us all the support. People can have different perceptions, but without the support of the government, we will not be here. That's what I keep saying. And I want to put on record that I want to thank the governor of Lagos, because he has done a marvelous job by giving us all the support. 10 years ago, there was almost nothing here. But this is what you call a dream. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, then the governor of Lagos, dreamt about establishing this in about almost 18-20 years ago, and nobody thought about coming here. Actually, my first time here was just to come and look at the land. This was 2015. I've never ever been to this area of Lagos, but you can see what a dream can actually do. So I must thank him, and I pray and hope his own dream that, we used to, push Lagos up the ladder. Okay, he will apply 10 times that one, which I know he's trying. He will apply 10 times that in the federal government's, operations.
Okay, let me just ask you quickly. This is PMS coming out from the Dangote refinery. You did promise us, you did tell me severally when we've been visiting here in the last 7 to 8 years that when this happens, it's going to be Euro 5, which is the highest quality of PMS you can find around the world. Can I readily put this in my car and begin to run?
Yes, you can put it in your car and begin to run. And it will actually save your engine. It will give your engine the best performance. It will not be the normal one. And you can even see our diesel. Our diesel is very light. It's like water, so which people have never ever seen before. But that is what you call Euro 5 diesel. Our diesel now is about is less than even 30 ppm, which is great. And we'll keep pushing. We'll get to 10 ppm.
Okay, so finally from me, I'm so excited to hold this, but it will be more interesting if we can drive this supply and distribution down into the countryside, down on the streets, into the cars, into the engines. I can see your gantry positions here, 177 tanks for storage, and beginning to wonder how soon can we have all these trucks crisscross the streets of Lagos and supply petroleum products.
Our gasoline can be, that is PMS, can be in filling stations in the next 48 hours, depending on NNPC.
Would you want to comment on pricing? How much would you sell per liter of this PMS?
On PMS, what I told you, it is an arrangement which was designed and approved by Federal Executive Council, led by His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. As soon as it is finalized, which he is pushing, once we finish with NNPC, it can be today, it can be tomorrow, we are ready to roll into the market.
And speaking of the pump price of PMS, Nigerians are lamenting the new pump price per litre that has been seen at various fueling stations this morning. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has raised the price of premium maltose spirit, PMS, from its former prices of between 568 naira to 617 naira per litre to between 855 naira to 897 naira per litre. This increase marks a huge change for consumers who will now be paying more at the pump. Now, this price hike is expected to have a widespread impact on the economy, affecting transportation costs and the prices of goods and services across the country. Well, newly crowned Miss Universe Nigeria, Chidinma Adesina, has expressed her gratitude to Nigerians for their support and love, stating that she will not take it for granted. She made this statement during a courtesy visit to the Director General of Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, Abike Dabiri Erewa in Lagos. Well, Adesina, who was recently crowned Miss Universe Nigeria amidst controversy surrounding her dual citizenship, acknowledged the warm reception she has received from Nigerians. She promises to use her platform to promote Nigerian culture and values globally. During the visit, Dabiri Erewa urged Nigerians with dual citizenship to appreciate and utilize their Nigerian citizenship wisely. Ms. Adesina's visit to NIDCOM marks the beginning of her reign as Miss Universe Nigeria, and she is scheduled to represent Nigeria at the Miss Universe contest in Mexico, and that's later this year.
I just want to say thank you, and I'm so honored to be sitting in front of you. And I wear this sash with so much pride, and I will make Nigeria proud as well. And I'm really glad for this opportunity, and I'm here as well. I remember before I arrived at the airport, I was so nervous. I came alone because my uncle was unable to come with me that day. And I arrived and I felt very anxious. I was scared. I had a lot of mixed emotions. And I arrived at the airport. Before I even met my family, there was a lot of people around me that were like welcoming me so nicely, and I felt so accepted. I felt so loved. And it was like a very good atmosphere to be in. So it has been an amazing experience. I haven't really been out to experience more, and I'm really proud to say that I'm going to stay here and explore more. So yes, after everything else, Nigeria is home now, and I'm really looking forward to exploring more.
We're saying that if you're a dual citizenship, take the dual seriously. You never know where it comes in handy. Now Nigeria has come in handy for her. So, and Nigeria allows dual citizenship. But we're glad to host her, we're glad to receive her, we're glad to welcome her back home. And our experience back home has been wonderful. Thanks to Silverbird, Miss Universe, for inviting her to participate, and she accepted. So it's just that as Nigerians, whether you're half Nigerian or full Nigerian, you are our ambassadors, wherever you find yourselves. And don't forget home.
Well, finally, on the program, South Africa's Simon's Town appears to have become a primate playground in recent months, as dozens of baboons have reportedly been making frequent visits to the area, and this has prompted widespread safety concerns among the local residents. The baboons seem to be right at home, climbing residential buildings, walking on pavements, crossing the roads, and playing on cars in the town. Well, Simon's Town resident and lead facilitator of the Baboon Dialogue, Peter Willis, says that the animals have become accustomed to entering the town to search for high-calorie human food. In the meantime, Cape Town authorities have finalized an agreement with a private firm to hire rangers for ongoing baboon surveillance until the implementation of a revised management strategy, and that's set to commence in November.
They are unique in terms of wild animals in this part of the world, in that they're greedy, they're lazy, they could spend all day foraging for bulbs and roots on the mountain, which is that's their natural habitat. But they have learned that if they're not stopped, they can come into our suburbs and there's very high calorie, very easy human food, and that's nice for them. We learned that with proper government support and organization, it was possible to keep the baboon troops largely out of the suburbs and on the mountain. For various reasons, the government agencies who were doing that have stopped doing it, or they've pulled gradually back, and it's a very unsatisfactory situation because we as residents we simply don't have the resources to keep the baboons out of our village, out of our town. And so the baboons are coming in and it's then down to the individual householder to deal with the threat of here comes a bunch of baboons into my kitchen. The one thing that all parties fundamentally agree to is that the answer is to have the baboon troops on the mountain, where they are totally adapted to mountain life, and the humans in the suburbs, and to have them separated, possibly by a combination of trained rangers and some strategic electrified baboon-proof fencing.
That's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.